Otaku! Welcome back to another exciting episode of Go Mega Otaku Gamer Alpha. I'm your Mega Otaku Gamer. I am Ken-chan. And today we're gonna travel to an alternate universe. A place where the video game crash of 1983 never happened. Where people just kept playing their video games like there was no such thing as Atari, and they didn't just go down the toilet at Mach 6. What is this place I'm talking about? This alternate universe? It's not an alternate universe. It's actually a country called Japan, and we're going to look at the Nintendo Famicom. Now, the Nintendo Famicom was a third-generation console. It was released on July 15th, 1983, the very year that Atari was going down the toilet at Mach 6. It was discontinued in Japan, of course, we're talking about September 25th, 2003. 20 years later, not a bad run for the little machine. It sold 61.91 million units. That probably also has the Nintendo, the NES thrown in with it there, that figure, because it was released also in America, and we knew it as the NES. So that 61.91 million units, we're going to go ahead and attribute that to the NES as well, not just the Famicom. The CPU was a Ricoh 2A03 8-bit processor with MOS technology 6502 core. Woohoo! 6502 core. And of course they had the Super Mario Brothers pack-in game that was sold 40.23 million units as of 1999, which is just crazy. The predecessor to this system was the Color TV game, the Nintendo Pong clone that they had. And of course the successor was the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, known in Japan as the Super Famicom. Now, we're going to stay away from the NES today. We're going to talk about Famicom as much as possible. There are times where the two things, overlap. We're going to try to stay away from that. We're going to look primarily at the Famicom. The NES is a different episode. Now, this is a Nintendo Famicom, and Famicom stands for Family Computer. Family Computer. It has two hardwired controllers here that, as you can see, are fused into the back. You don't plug them in and unplug them. They're attached, both of them. And this one even has a microphone in it that you can sing into, and etc. Because the Japanese love their karaoke, and they also had some games that use the voice the voice activation. Real primitive. I think one of them was a Legend of Zelda game where you yell and certain creatures died from you yelling, but that never made it in America. This is the eject button here. Actually, this is the cartridge port here. This opens and closes, and then this ejects your games when they're in. This is a reset button, power switch. Okay, real simple little machine, and by little I do mean little. I'm going to set next to it here an American NES cartridge to give you an idea of how small this system really is. And of course, if you try to take this and put it in here, doesn't go in. So we can't use that. That's out of here. Now you want to bear in mind that this is the exact same guts in this machine that were in the NES. But the cartridges were smaller, and you didn't have that long card inside there that made the connection difficult. You just snap this in like this. And of course, the eject button in action here. Here we go. Boink. Out it comes. So let's take a look at some of the games. Now, as we're gearing up here to play our Famicom, the first thing you're going to notice is that if you run the RF to a channel 2 or a 3 like you did for your Nintendo or your Super Nintendo or your Sega Genesis or even your Atari 2600, channels 2 and 3 aren't any good. You can't use those, so you wonder what channels to use. Well, you want to use channel 95. Because channel 95, you know, the high mid-90s there, is what the Japanese consoles used to interrupt the channel to make the game happen. And then we simply switch this on, and it's Super Mario Bros. 3. A little bit of Mach Rider for you. It's Konami's Gradius. Of course, what would a Nintendo system be from this era without Tetris? Now, some pretty standard fare there, no surprises there. But something you want to do if you're going to collect Japanese systems is you want to stay away from what I call text-intensive games. Text-intensive games would be things like Final Fantasy. And here we have Final Fantasy 1 and 2 on one cartridge. And I'll show you why. Now here we are, we're going to play Final Fantasy 1. And this is a very text-intensive game. whether you get through the game or not relies on the text on the screen. Now, I can't read any of that. I don't even know what to load here or what to do. So we're going to start this here. And already I think you can see the problem. If I talk to someone, that's what you get. I can't read any of this. So there's no way, unless I have the game memorized, the American version, which I don't know they had this version in America. They might have. They probably re-released it somehow or something, but unless you memorize the game, you're not going to be able to get through this at all. You don't even know what you're buying or how. Like, what does any of that say? I don't know. Who knows? Now, it becomes suddenly reasonable to steer away from text-intensive games. But if you can't read the cover of the game, how are you supposed to tell what kind of game it is? I'll show you that too. Now here's a Famicom game, and it has like a picture of some monsters on it fighting. But I can't read any of that. But oh look, I can read this, DFC 24. And most of these games have some kind of code on them somewhere that tells you something about them. Or actually that you can put into Google and find out something about them. This one says RC816 right here. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and take this one and we're going to put in DFC24 into Google. And you can do this from a computer or a smartphone. Let's see here. DFC-24. What's that? Okay. Now you might get stupid crap like this that has nothing to do with the game. So you might want to put next to your search query Nintendo Famicom. And of course, it comes up. It's called Daikaiju Deburas Famicom. And that's DFC24. And here's even a little video about it. But wait a minute, I'm making a video, so we're not watching this guy's video. But this is the game. Right here. Now, was that information accurate? Let's find out. Wow, look at that. Just like the video we just saw. Daikaiju Deburas. I guess that's how it's pronounced. Some more text here. But it could be that the text isn't that important. I like making up my own story. And of course the object of the game is to place your military implements, these things, close to where the monsters are, because the monsters are coming ashore and you have to stop them by strategically having your military lined up, being able to take them on. So there you have it, Otaku. The Nintendo Famicom had a 20-year run. Had support for those 20 years. That's hard to do. That's not easy to do. And of course, in Japan, they didn't know that there was a video game crash. They just kept going. Atari went down the toilet. They switched over to things like the Sega SG-1000, Mark 1, 2, and 3. The Famicom came out. The Japanese didn't even know that there was a problem. They kept right on gaming. Didn't even worry about it. In America, Nintendo had to fight with the NES to get back into the game and eventually single-handedly revitalize the market in this country. But that's another episode. It's the Nintendo Famicom. It's an original. It's awesome. It's great for your collection. It looks like a Fisher-Price toy, but it's also cool.